everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Shifty's 49ers Talk. In this video, we're previewing NFL regular season action. Week 1, San Francisco 49ers at the Chicago Bears. This year, I'm going to do a slightly different format for my game previews. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm totally receptive to feedback. Any improvements you think that I can make, more than happy to look into that. But let's not waste any more time. Let's get into the preview. 49ers at Chicago Bears. The first part of my preview that I want to do is looking at the last matchup between these two teams. That was last season, 2021, Week 8. The 49ers at the Bears, we won 33-22. This really was a game that helped turn around the 49ers season. After losing against the Indianapolis Colts the week before, the Niners got a big win in Chicago thanks to, in large part, to some big performances from Deebo Samuel, and also Jimmy Garoppolo had a great game as well. We all remember Deebo's huge play almost leading to a touchdown. Jimmy Garoppolo over 300 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, and the defense got just enough stops to get us the win here. But of course, look, these teams have changed a lot since then, and that's going to move into our next part of the video. Some of the changes that have happened for both of these teams. Well, when we look at the Chicago Bears, Matt Nagy no longer the head coach there. They brought in Matt Eberflus, former Indianapolis Colts defensive coordinator. And I think this is really an addition by subtraction almost, simply because Nagy was really not too great his last year in Chicago. Very much like no one was surprised when he was let go. Of course, with the Chicago Bears, no more Allen Robinson at wide receiver. He signed with the Rams in free agency. And then Khalil Mack, the star pass rusher, was traded to the LA Chargers in the offseason. So a lot of big changes in Chicago. But let's look at the 49ers, because there are some big changes here too. Of course, Trey Lance, franchise quarterback, will be starting week 1 as we head into the 2022 season. And I couldn't be more excited for him. I think it's going to be a really, really solid game. Shanahan will have a very good game plan to set him up for success. Offensive line, bit of a question mark right here. All 3 members of the interior offensive line are going to be different from last season. Now it's going to be presumably Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, and Spencer Burford on the interior. Hopefully, Mike McGlinchey can go at right tackle. And then, of course, we've revamped the secondary, bringing in Charvarius Ward, bringing in Sammy Womack in the draft, who's done really well. George Odom likely to be out there at safety, possibly Tarvarius Moore as well, who was out all of last year. So a number of big changes in the secondary, and I think for the better. Now, moving on from here, after talking about the changes, let's now talk about the coaching staff and some of the matchups for the coaching staff in this game. So the big thing here is going to be head coach, essentially offensive play caller, Kyle Shanahan versus head coach Matt Eberflus himself, and then Alan Williams, who was also on the Indianapolis Colts defensive coaching staff last year, will be basically calling the defensive plays for the Colts. So one thing that I wanted to look at very quickly was that matchup last year. Well, the Niners did have quite a decent amount of success running the ball. 24 rushes, 111 yards, and a touchdown in that game. Passing, not so much. 180 yards. Jimmy Garoppolo had 2 picks. Remember, that was the Sunday night game where the weather was just awful. So passing was always going to be a little bit difficult. But also, we have to think too, in that matchup, there was no George Kittle. Kittle was not playing. And also Ayuk, only 1 target. I have to go back and watch that game and wonder how that could have happened. But overall, look, Kyle Shanahan, I think he'll have a bit of the upper hand right here, simply because so many of the players with the 49ers are going to be very familiar with this scheme compared to Eberflus installing his own system. There's going to be changes, and of course they lost Khalil Mack as well. So I do like Shanahan's chances against Eberflus. Now, when we move on to the next matchup, it's going to be DeMeco Ryans, a defensive coordinator for the Niners, against Luke Getsy. Now, Luke Getsy came over. He was the quarterback coach in Green Bay. And being the quarterback coach in Green Bay, I'm sure that's one of the nicest jobs where you just say, Aaron Rodgers, yeah, go out, do your thing. But ultimately, what I like about this matchup is that DeMeco Ryans and this style of defense has traditionally had quite a lot of success against the Green Bay Packers and that Matt LaFleur offense. So And again, D'Amico Ryan's heading into his second year with the 49ers. This defensive roster is just stacked with talent and depth compared to Getsy, trying to install his system in Chicago. I think there's going to be some growing pains there in Chicago. Justin Fields still very young and still trying to find that number one wide receiver there. Finally, special teams. This is an interesting one. So our new special teams coordinator, Brian Schneider, up against our previous special teams coordinator, Richard Hightower, who is now in Chicago. Of course, look, Hightower is going to try and bring out all the stops to essentially show John Lynch, show Kyle Shanahan, oh, you let me go and replace me with this guy. But then again, I really do like the moves that we made in free agency to shore up our special teams. So that will be an interesting aspect of the game to look out for. But that's some of the coaching matchups that we are going to see week 1. Now let's move on to some of the star player matchups coming right up. Kicking it off with some of the star matchups, we're going to have George Kittle, tight end for the 49ers, Pro Bowl All-Pro, against Roquan Smith. Now, I think that Roquan Smith is a fantastic linebacker. Now, here's the thing. He was really, really looking for a big contract. Even at one point, looked for a trade away from the Chicago Bears. So we'll see what kind of mind frame he's at once we're in the regular season, but I think this is going to be a really fun matchup to watch. It's really going to be hard to say who's going to win. Now, the Niners with the offensive line in the preseason didn't look great, so it's really possible that Kittle has to stay into block a little bit more than what we'd like to see. However, I don't think that there's any question that Kyle Shanahan wants to try and get the ball into George Kittle's hands a lot more than what we've seen in last year or even the year before. Try and get him in space where he can break a tackle and then make a big play for us. So it'll be interesting. You know that Roquan is probably going to be just keeping an eye wherever George Kittle goes. Roquan will probably go there too. But Roquan is going to have some big responsibilities because we know that Trey Lance has the ability to make plays with his legs, so he'll have to keep an eye out for that. But that's one of the first matchups I'm going to be keeping an eye on for. The other thing, too, which will be really, really fun, is going to be Trent Williams at left tackle, best left tackle in the game, against Robert Quinn, who's actually a very underrated pass rusher, in my opinion. He's had fantastic years throughout the NFL, his career in the NFL, and just never really gets talked about as one of those premier elite guys. But that's a matchup I'm really going to be excited for, although I wouldn't be surprised if they really do try and get Robert Quinn matched up against whether it's Mike McGlinchey or Colton McKivitz at right tackle to have a maybe more favorable matchup. But even just seeing Trent Williams play is always a pleasure as a football fan. Now let's move on from there, and we're going to flip the roles here. We're going to have 49ers star linebacker Fred Warner against Chicago Bears tight end Cole Kmet. Now, I don't think we could really call Cole Kmet a star just yet, but I think he's going to have a really, really big year in Chicago. We know this West Coast offense, the Matt LaFleur, is still similar-ish to the Kyle Shanahan offense. A lot of similarities. Like to get the tight end involved. I think there's going to be a lot of play action, bootleg, dump it off to Cole Kmet. So I think that's going to be a really, really big key in this game to see, look, can Fred Warner, in my eyes, I think he needs a bit of a bounce back year. 2021, he was solid, but not spectacular. Definitely, in my eyes, didn't play up to the contract that he earned the year before. So looking to see Warner maybe make a couple of big plays, couple of passes defense that go towards Cole Kmet's way. But those are some of the star matchups that I'm going to be keeping an eye out for throughout the week 1 action. Now, we're going to move into the final segment of this video, and we're going to talk about some of the keys to winning for the 49ers to come away with Chicago and be 1-0 on the year. So there were about 5 things that came to mind in my eyes for what the 49ers need to do in order to be successful and come away with the win at Chicago. So the first thing is Trey Lance just has to be very efficient. It's one of those football cliches, but take what the defense gives them. If the defense gives them a deep pass and maybe Danny Gray's running a go route, then you take that shot. But the biggest thing here to me is just being smart with the football. The 49ers really do have to win the turnover battle. I think the Chicago Bears are going to start bringing some heat towards Trey Lance, try and get him to make a couple of mistakes so they can get a couple of extra possessions. Now with Trey Lance, I think it's really going to be helpful for him that he can make plays with his legs, but expect Kyle Shanahan initially to start the game off, couple of quick, easy passes. Now, something that I've noticed a little bit with Trey is that it can take him 1 or 2 drives to really get into a rhythm. So don't be shocked if Kyle Shanahan maybe just does some very quick, easy passes, get Trey going really early on in the game. That'll allow him to get into a rhythm for the rest of it. Also, when it comes to third down efficiency on offense, the Niners need to be able to pick that up. So not only will it come down to Trey being efficient. If it's 3rd and 6, make the right throw. Run if you have to, but you can't take those big hits either. So it's being smart when you run. But also, and this is going to tie into the second point, is an effective running game. So, and I think, we saw what the Niners did against the Colts, who were defensively coached by Matt Eberflus last year. They ran for 4.6 yards a carry. So, and we saw what the Niners did against the Bears last year running the ball. Elijah Mitchell had a huge game. I think it was maybe like 5, 6, maybe 6, 7 yards per carry against the Bears defense last year. So really being able to continue that. I think we're going to see a heavy dose of Elijah Mitchell. As the game wears on, wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit more Jeff Wilson Jr. or TDP or Jordan Mason, some of those guys who run really, really physical. So in that 4th quarter, when defensive guys are getting a little bit tired, and then you have this fresh running back coming in, incredibly physical to pick up those extra yards. But being productive on first down, running the ball, just getting the quarterback, Trey Lance, he's essentially a rookie, getting him into good situations by running the ball effectively. Now let's move on to the defensive side of the ball. We got to get stops on 3rd down. One of the things, and if any of you guys checked out my live streams last year, was we could not get off the field on 3rd and long. It would be 3rd and 10. The other team would find a way to pick up a first down. 3rd and 12. We got to get off the field on 3rd down. And if I remember specifically, the game against the Chicago Bears, they were just converting 3rd down, 3rd down, 3rd down, 3rd down, and the offense just barely had a chance to move the ball or get the ball. So being able to change that, maybe by, if we can get that pressure, I think Ebukam's going to have a great year, but getting off the field on 3rd down, that means being successful on 1st down, 2nd down, and then having the big play on 3rd down. Really, one of the things too, and that's going to now tie into the 4th point, is we have to contain Justin Fields. People say that he had a fantastic game against the 49ers last year. Throwing the ball, it was actually pretty mediocre. 170, 180 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. But it was with his legs that he really hurt the 49ers. 10 rushes, over 100 yards, and a touchdown. And a lot of those were on those key plays. I think it was 4th and 1 or 4th and 2 where Justin Fields, amazing play. I think he actually ran it for a touchdown for 22 yards. But, we just can't let those plays happen. So if we can limit the damage he does with his legs, force him to throw some exotic blitzes his way, throw some, different zone coverages his way, force him to make mistakes so that we can win the turnover battle. Because not only does Trey have to be efficient offensively, but we got to keep making turnovers. We're doing it pretty well in preseason. Let's see if it translates to the regular season. And then special teams. So with special teams, we've invested very heavily in special teams in the offseason. A number of players, Oren Burks, George Odom, Ray McLeod, our new special teams coordinator. It's one of those underrated aspects of the game, and really, hopefully, we can get some nice returns, some good coverage. But really, I think this is one of those things where this could really sway the game. Week 1 games are always really, really interesting, and there's always a ton of surprises. Teams have a lot more time to prepare for it. So if we can just play sound fundamental football, I think we come away with the win. Alrighty guys, so those are my 5 points or 5 parts of the video for my preview against the Chicago Bears. So let me throw out a quick prediction for the 49ers versus the Chicago Bears. I think this game is going to be a lot closer than what some people think. Ultimately, I believe the 49ers will be able to make enough plays to come away with the win. I'm going to go with 49ers 27, Chicago 20. There's going to be some interesting plays here. Can't wait to see it. I'm going to have a couple more videos, guys, coming out before the season starts. Going to have some more prediction videos, some expectation videos for the season. But overall, really want to thank you guys for stopping by. Thank you for, being around here for the channel, engaging with me. It's a whole lot of fun. The stream will be kicking off around 9:30 to 9:40 a.m. on Sunday 49ers at Bears. Trey Lance era will officially begin. I really hope you guys can check it out. But at this point, guys, you know I'm going to say two things. The butt counts, and I'm going to catch y'all on the flip side.